Hello friends, welcome to Shikshathi. In this video, we'll be talking about lateral and longitudinal arrangements. So let's start. Now under the head of lateral and longitudinal arrangements, we'll be talking about linear seating and linear standing arrangements. So something that is very important before we start off with this video is that you should have revised the basics on permutations and combinations because we are going to use them majorly. Okay. Now, since this being a session wherein maths and English will be required in any case, so we'll be focusing on the words and the interpretation of the words as well. So as discussed earlier in my earlier videos also, reasoning is a combination of maths and English, right? And today's discussion will be focusing on the logical reasoning and the analytical reasoning side of it. Okay. So now let us assume a situation wherein 5 people, let us say there are 5 people A to E, A, B, C, D, E. They are supposed to be either seated or they are supposed to stand in a queue. So when I say they are supposed to be seated, they can be seated in two different ways. One is they can be seated laterally, right, which is, let us say, horizontally, and the other way in which they can be seated is, let's say, longitudinally. Now when I say longitudinally, I am basically referring to a linear way of arranging. So whether it is longitudinal or it is lateral, I am basically referring to a line, right? So the next question which comes here is, let us assume, now we are going to focus only on one case at a time. So let us say that 5 people are supposed to be laterally arranged and they are supposed to be seated. Further, let's say there is a photograph which is supposed to be clicked, a college photograph or a school photograph or a reunion photograph, whatever. So the photograph is supposed, and there are 5 seats that are placed, let's say one beside the other, and then they are supposed to be arranged. So now what are the thoughts that would come? So we will be basically talking about the thought process rather than discussing questions. We will talk about the thought process, because if the thought process is in place, we can solve any given question at any given point in time. So the first question which will arise here is, okay, all the 5 people, are they supposed to be seated on different seats? The answer is yes. So there are 5 people, let us say A to E, and they are supposed to be seated on 5 different seats. Further on, the next condition here is, let us say that A and E are supposed to be at the extreme positions. So when I use the word extreme, the next question which comes into picture here is, okay, if A and E are supposed to be in extreme positions, there are 2 cases which can be formed when A and E are supposed to be in extreme positions. One case is this, the other case is this. But at a time you will focus only on a single case so that you can do justice with that case. Right? So this anxiety has been taken care of. Okay. So we used few words. The words here are beside and extreme positions in a lateral linear arrangement. Okay. Similarly, now talking about, analogously, if I talk about the second case wherein there are 5 people, let us say A to E, and they are supposed to stand in a line. So line, assuming that line is a straight line and let's say a longitudinal one. So we are basically talking about 2-dimensional, wherein the first case that we talked about, let us say we were talking about the x-axis, and the second case here that we are talking about, which is longitudinal, we are talking about the y-axis, right? So now the moment I say now, so the first anxiety has been taken care of. The second case is such that A and E are standing at the extreme positions. So now instead of using a word like extreme left or extreme right, which we would have used in the case of a lateral arrangement, here we will be talking about front and back, extreme front, extreme back. Right? I hope you have understood both the cases fundamentally. Now, the next case, before we talk about the next thought process, it is better that we first discuss few words which will be essentially used when we are talking about either lateral arrangements or linear arrangements. And what are the words that we are supposed to use there? Let us first talk about them. And at the same time, we will be discussing this case only with respect to the words that we'll be discussing. So there are some direction words. These direction words, few of these words I have already discussed with you. For example, when I say front and back, when I talk about a longitudinal arrangement, longitudinal means I'm making a line in such a way wherein somebody is standing in the front and somebody is standing at the back. Then we are concerned with which direction are they facing. Are they facing north? Are they facing south? Then if I pile up something, we would always talk about the top, or when we talk about floors. I mean, let's say there is an apartment which has 7 floors. Then we talk about, instead of using a word like north and south, we basically talk about the top floor and the bottom floor. Then as we discussed, we talk about when there is a line, that is, so we talk about, okay, A is standing in the front, or A is standing in the extreme back, at the extreme back, or E is standing at the extreme front and somebody standing at the extreme back. Before, after, above, below, beneath, previous, succeed, precede. These are some words which are generally used in a longitudinal linear arrangement. Generally used. At the same time, we should not forget words like high and low. I mean, I'm just giving you a perception. The rest is up to you. I mean, it is dependent on the question that you're doing and the thought process which goes by while you are solving a question. Okay. At the same time, if I talk about a lateral arrangement, so I'll be concerned with what? Okay, whether A was at the extreme left or A was at the extreme right. Analogously, we'll be able to say whether E was at the extreme right or E was to the extreme left. Okay, then adjacent. Now, what is the meaning of the word adjacent? Adjacent means immediate. But the word adjacent in a certain way will be directionless, because the moment you say C is sitting adjacent to B, let's say. So if I say C is sitting adjacent to B, now let's say if this is B, so C can sit either on the immediate right hand side or on the immediate left hand side. Again, this is just a matter of perspective. So there needs to be a point of reference. So with respect to the person who's sitting, so let's say if C sits adjacent to B, then if this is B and if B has to narrate the situation, B will say what? C will sit either to my right hand side or to my left hand side. But when B says that C is sitting either to my right hand side or to the left hand side, the word adjacent will always be an immediate position. Immediate means next. So the word next also is directionless, because the moment you say he is sitting next to me, the next question that should come to you is which direction am I talking about? Next here can be what? Either right hand side, left hand side, front or back. Right? Then there is a word like juxtapose. So now when I say beside, I can also use the word beside, because beside is always used laterally, by the side. Beside is the word which is used laterally, by the side. Okay. Next, I'm curious here. So now these are few words that I have written. For example, between, middle, center, first, second, third, fourth, away, extreme. So in general, we are basically talking about the usage of prepositions and adverbs. Now when I say adverbs, I'm basically referring to adverbs of places and positions. So while handling this topic, you need to be extremely, it is really fragile when you are handling this topic, because you need to focus both on maths and English. Right? Okay. So now the point that I'm trying to make here is, now when I use a word like between, what is the interpretation of between? The word between is an ambiguous term to be used. For example, if there are 5 people who are sitting, for example here 5 people, let's say, are sitting laterally in a linear manner. Now if I say how many people in between A and E, so there are 3 people. So I'm basically talking about either B or C or D. So in between, so if there are 5 people, those who are sitting, what is the definition of in between? In between position could be either the second position or the third or the fourth, if I talk from this hand side. And if I talk about from this hand side, then the positions would be second, third, fourth. So from both the sides, the positions are second, third and fourth only. So now the next word, but if I use a word like exactly in between, then there is a difference between in between and exactly in between. So exactly in between means what? Center or middle. So C here is sitting exactly in between A and E. If I say how many people are sitting in between A and E, there are 3 people sitting. And in how many ways can they arrange themselves? They can arrange themselves in 3 factorial ways. Now when I say between A and E, 3 factorial ways. So if I say A and E like this, 3 factorial. And if I say E and A, which is again in between E and A. So how many cases in total? Factorial 2 into factorial 3 cases in total. Wherein A and E are sitting at the extreme ends and the remaining 3 are sitting in between. How many such cases would you make? Factorial 2 into factorial 3. Why factorial 3? Because 3 people can be arranged or made to be seated in 3 different positions on 3 different seats. In how many ways? 3p 3 ways, which is factorial 3 ways. And then we are multiplying it by factorial 2 because in one case A could be this side and E could be on the extreme this hand side, and the other case would be E is here on the extreme end and the A is there on the other extreme end. Please do not forget to think about all possible cases, but at the same time I advised that when you have thought of all the cases, at a time it is always better and judicious to take a single case. Right? Okay. So in between is a position which is slightly ambiguous, but if I say middle and center, these are unambiguous positions. I mean, there is only one case. Why am I using a word like ambiguous? Because there could be more than one case. And if I say unambiguous, that means there is only one case, there is only one interpretation. Then you have words like, first, second, third, fourth. Now we can combine these things together. How? If I say, what is the position of D? I mean, if I talk about this case, A, B, C, D, E, what is the position of D? So you will say the position of D is 4th from which side? So if I say, if I'm facing this becomes my left hand side and this becomes my right hand side. So I'll say that D is sitting 4th, rather than saying from my hand side, I'll say D is sitting 4th to the right of A. But if A has to narrate this situation, in that case D is sitting 4th to the left of A. At the same time, D is sitting first from the right hand side if I am narrating the position of D, but from E's narration, D is sitting to the right hand side and this is the first position. So let's understand this with the help of another example. So can I say D is 4 places? Can I say D is 4 places to the right of A? D is 4 places to the right of A. No, I can't say this, because if I say D is 4 places to the right of A, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. So what will I say for D? D is 4 places to the right of A. Who is saying this? I am saying this from my perspective. At the same time, D is 1 place to the left of E. Now from A's and E's perspective, the direction would change. Same with north and south. The directions would change. So there is something like to my right. So if somebody is observing me, then if I say to my right, so for the person who's observing me, for that person it would be to the left of that person. Right? I hope I have made my point clear. Okay. So if I say, another way here is, I can say D is 3 places away to the right of A. D is 3 places away to the right, or D is third to the right. These are two different statements that I can use for or in order to define the position of D. So 3 places away or third to the right. So when we are using ordinals, these are ordinals, or I can use cardinals. Cardinals are counts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'll repeat this and with the help of another example. For example, if I have to talk about the position of C with respect to A and E. So can I say C is second to the right of A, or C is 2 places away to the right of A? Yes, it is. At the same time, I can say C is 2 places away to the left of E, or C is second to the right of E. So I can either use the ordinal concept or I can use the cardinal concept. Ordinal is position, cardinal is count. Count is 1, 2, 3, 4. So now you will see ordinals basically would be using these suffixes only. For example, when you're talking about 21st number, 22nd number, 23rd number, 24th number, you will see that ordinals will necessarily use these 4 suffixes only. What are these 4 suffixes? ST or ND, second, third, RD, fourth, TH. At the same time, so we have talked about away and to. So as discussed earlier, please focus on the prepositions and adverbs of places and positions because they are going to help you a lot. Now, the last but not the least, please refer to one of my videos of inequality wherein I have already talked about how to negate a statement. I mean, I have talked about affirmatives, or I have talked about how to negate a statement. So when I'm negating something, now how do I negate something? By using no or not. So if I say not in between, C is not sitting in between, what is the interpretation? The interpretation here is ambiguous. It is not unambiguous, because when I say not in between, I mean C is not sitting in between. At the same time, I need to understand either C is sitting on this side or C is sitting on this side. So there will be 2 cases which will be made. So I can use not in all these cases. For example, not to the left. So if I say C is not to the left of the centermost position, C is not sitting to the left of the centermost position here. So let us say if there are 5 people sitting, and at the same time I say that C is not sitting to the left of the, now this is the centermost position. C is not sitting to the left of the centermost position. So we are basically talking about C is not sitting in either of these positions. In that case, where can C sit? C can either sit here or these 2 cases. So when I say not on the right means what? Either in the middle or on to the left. Either on that position or on the other side is a point to be understood. So which is just like saying not after, not before, not previous, not succeeding, not at the top, right? Not at the bottom. Now when I say not at the bottom, is it ambiguous? It will simply tell you that, so let's say if there are 5 things, now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and not at the bottom. Not at the bottom means what? Anywhere here. So here now you will be having 4 cases. So you will see not at the bottom here means what? If there are 5, let's say 5 people, there are 5 piled up. So let's say there are books which are piled up, and the of different subjects, and the mathematics book is not at the bottom. So where will it be? So it can be at any of these 4 places. This is the point that I am trying to make. Okay, if you feel that something interesting and knowledgeable has been discussed in this video, please give us a thumbs up for this video. And have you subscribed to the channel? If not, please subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon and select the word, select all, so that you can start receiving updates from us regularly. If you want us to do some specific videos on specific topics, please put it in the comment section. Thank you so much. Until next we meet, goodbye.